Welcome back to Mr. Twilight, your go-to place for chilling stories from around the world. Becoming a parent means wanting to protect your children from every danger. But sometimes, the most terrifying things happen right inside our own homes. The stories I'm sharing today come from real, life experiences of parents who faced their worst nightmares. Make sure you're ready. These stories might just keep you up at night. Let's begin. Story 1. The Babysitter. Sarah once believed that her new life in the suburbs of New Jersey was the perfect beginning for her young family. The neighborhood, filled with friendly families, gave her peace of mind. Especially since her husband often traveled for work. Alone with her 6-month-old daughter, Lily, Sarah found comfort in their quiet, cozy home during the cold winter nights. But one winter night changed everything forever. Around 2 a.m., Sarah jolted awake to frantic crying from the baby monitor next to her bed. Sarah turned on the bedside lamp and grabbed the monitor. The black and white screen flickered with static for a few seconds before clearing. Lily was thrashing in her crib, arms and legs flailing, and beside her stood a tall, motionless shadow, its head bowed low, staring at her. A cold rush surged through Sarah. Her blood felt frozen. Her heart pounded as she screamed and rushed to Lily's room. She flipped on the light. The room was empty. Lily lay quietly, eyes half closed, peaceful as if she had never cried. No sign of anyone else. Sarah tried to convince herself it was just her imagination. But from that night on, strange things began to happen. She would find Lily's door wide open in the morning. Even though she always made sure it was firmly shut, toys she had neatly stored away ended up scattered across the floor, arranged in a perfect circle. One night, a soft giggle came through the baby monitor. A child's laugh, but it didn't sound like Lily's. Sarah started to suspect that someone was playing tricks on her, or that something was hiding in the house. While cleaning the attic one day, she discovered an old wooden box. Inside was a yellow journal belonging to a mother who had lived in the house back in the 1980s. An excerpt from the journal read, "Emily has started talking to someone in the mirror. She calls them the babysitter. But we've never hired anyone. I thought it was just an imaginary friend until the bedroom window was covered in tiny handprints." Sarah's brow furrowed. Emily? That was the same name as the missing girl the former owner had briefly mentioned. She searched online. Emily Parker, age 6, disappeared from her home on Christmas Eve, 1990. No signs of forced entry. No one ever found out where she went. Determined to get answers, Sarah installed new security cameras. One in Lily's room and another overlooking the staircase. At 3 a.m., a soft tapping sound woke her. She opened her bedroom door, but no one was there. On the floor lay a doll in a white dress with tangled curls and a dust-covered face. The next morning, she reviewed the footage, and what she saw nearly made her collapse. At 2:58 a.m., Lily's crib began to rock gently. From beneath it, a small figure crawled out, stood silently watching Lily for several minutes, then melted into the darkness. The stairway camera showed something even worse. A little girl in a white dress standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring straight into the lens. Her face had no eyes. Sarah began praying constantly, but each morning, tiny handprints reappeared on the bedroom window, no matter how thoroughly she cleaned it. Then one morning, just as dawn broke, Sarah entered Lily's room and froze. On the glass window, above the smudged handprints, a new message appeared. written in shaky lettering. Don't let her watch Lily. She won't give her back. On their last night in the house, Mike had just returned from a trip. Sarah told him everything and showed him the videos. Skeptical but unsettled, Mike agreed. They needed to leave immediately. While packing, Mike found a scribbled drawing inside Lily's closet. A tall woman in black stood between two children. One was Lily. The other had long hair and a face scribbled out in thick black ink. That night, as they carried Lily out to the car, her knocking sounds echoed from inside. Sarah glanced back at the house one last time and saw a little girl standing behind Lily's bedroom curtain, slowly waving, her lips mouthing, "Stay with me." The family moved far away. The house was sealed off and never reopened. But sometimes, even now, at midnight, their old baby monitor crackles to life. And if someone is brave enough to turn it on, they'll see a little girl standing by a crib, whispering, "I just want to play a little longer." Story 2. The whispering voice, a faint murmur. "Mom, let me go with," drifted from my son's room at 3 a.m., making my breath catch in my throat. I crept toward the slightly ajar door. As I pushed it open, the sight froze me in place. Tommy, my 6-month-old son, was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, pupils rolled back white, staring into the darkest corner of the room. He didn't blink. He didn't move. My name is Amy, 35, a single mother living in central Denver. After my divorce, I decided to start fresh with Tommy in a quiet neighborhood, in an old apartment with surprisingly low rent. The landlord had been eager to lease it out. Too eager. It wasn't long before strange things began happening. On the very first day, I felt an unusual chill in the air. In Tommy's room, a water-stained patch lingered on the ceiling above the crib. I considered calling maintenance, but the first night passed without incident. Until the second week. Tommy, usually an energetic little boy who loved playing with Legos and toy cars, grew quieter. He'd sit for long stretches, whispering to the living room wall. When I asked who he was talking to, he pointed to empty space and said, "Can't you see her, Mommy? She's always crying." A few nights later, the whispers began. Soft, delicate murmurs floated from Tommy's room. At first, I assumed he was talking in his sleep. But every time I opened the door, the room would fall silent, eerily silent. One night, I heard a gentle tapping on the wall, followed by a whisper, "Mom, I'm so cold." I rushed in and found Tommy curled up, facing the wall, trembling. His lips moved, repeating the same words. He didn't respond when I touched him. It took nearly a full minute to wake him. And when he did, he screamed as though waking from a terrible nightmare. One afternoon while cleaning, I noticed a faint indentation behind a picture frame in the living room. Curious, I took the painting down. Behind the peeling wallpaper was a cracked section of wall. As I peeled away the paint, beneath the crumbling plaster, I found faint scorch marks and, chillingly, scattered, scribbled messages in faded pencil. "I don't want to be alone. Please don't leave." That night, Tommy looked up at me and said, "You know, Mommy, she used to live here." But nobody ever came to find her. I began digging for answers. Most neighbors didn't remember much, but an elderly woman downstairs finally spoke up. Nearly 7 years earlier, a woman named Emma Collins, around 28, had lived in our unit. She battled depression after a miscarriage and eventually became a recluse. One winter night, she was found dead in what's now Tommy's bedroom. Alone, forgotten. The apartment had sat empty for 5 years before I moved in. I eventually found an old news article about the death. The blurred photo showed a young woman with hollow eyes and long hair hiding half her face. When I showed the picture to Tommy, he simply said, "That's the lady who sits at the end of my bed every night." One night, slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden floor woke me. I opened my eyes and saw Tommy, eyes tightly shut, walking around the living room, whispering. "She said if I stay, you won't be here anymore." I called his name in panic. Tommy stopped, turned slowly, and the voice that came from his mouth wasn't his own. "It's time I'm going with her." At that very moment, the hallway mirror cracked down the middle. I grabbed Tommy, ran into the bedroom, slammed the door shut, and stayed up until daylight. The next day, I took Tommy to stay with his aunt and returned alone to the apartment. In his room, I peeled back the wallpaper behind his bed. Beneath it, a message scrawled in dark, dried brown red. "Don't separate us. He is my child." Terrified, I installed a camera in Tommy's room. When I reviewed the footage, my blood ran cold. Tommy lay asleep as a shadowy figure slowly materialized in the corner. A pale woman sat beside his bed and gently stroked his hair. Then she turned to face the camera. A ghostly face, white as chalk, eyes dark and empty, with a twisted, unnatural smile. I won't let him leave again. I decided to move. While packing, I discovered a small notebook, Emma's journal. On the last page, in shaky handwriting, were the words, "I lost my child. I won't lose anyone else." I buried the journal deep in the ground, hoping to lay her to rest. A year has passed. Tommy and I now live peacefully in a small town outside the city. Things have seemed normal, until last night. At 2 a.m., Tommy stood by my bed, eyes red and trembling. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Mom, she found me again." Story 3. The Haunted Toy. A shrill giggle echoed from Emily's room at 2 a.m., sending chills down my spine. I was certain Emily was fast asleep in the next room, so what was laughing inside our house? Jessica and Mark were a young couple living in a quiet town in Ohio. They had a bright, lively 5-year-old daughter named Emily, who absolutely adored dolls. One weekend morning, the family visited a local flea market. Jessica came across a tiny plush doll wearing a lacy white dress, with large glass eyes and soft, curly brown hair. The vendor, an old man with a weathered face, hesitated when Jessica reached for the doll. He looked her straight in the eye and said in a low voice, "You're sure about this? It used to belong to a little girl who never got to grow up." Jessica laughed, assuming it was just a quirky story to make the doll seem mysterious. But the man didn't laugh. His eyes held a warning, one she chose to ignore. Emily quickly fell in love with the doll. She named it Mimi and carried it everywhere, even insisting it sleep in her bed. At first, everything seemed fine. But then Jessica noticed Emily whispering to Mimi when she thought no one was watching. One night, as Jessica walked in to kiss her daughter goodnight, she heard Emily whisper, "Mimi says if I don't play with her, she'll get madder." Jessica asked who Mimi was talking about. Emily smiled sweetly and said, "Mimi doesn't like being alone." Soon after, the nightmares began. Every night, Emily screamed in her sleep, and every time she woke, she cried out, "Mommy! Mimi won't let me sleep." Jessica inspected the doll. It looked like any ordinary plush toy. Yet every morning, it appeared in a different spot in the room, even though no one had moved it. Mark remained skeptical until one night, while they were watching TV, their Bluetooth speaker suddenly turned on. A distorted voice played through the static. "She belongs to me. I won't share her." Around 2 a.m., Jessica jolted awake to the sound of a child's giggle coming from the playroom. Heart pounding, she ran to Emily's room. Her daughter was sound asleep, but the playroom was pitch black. Toys lay scattered across the floor. In the corner, facing the wall, sat Mimi the doll, upright, perfectly still. Terrified, Jessica returned to the flea market, desperate to find the old man who sold her the doll. But he was gone. No one knew him. Days later, she found a decades-old news article. A little girl named Lily, age 6, mysteriously vanished in 1988. The only item left in her room, a plush doll. From that point, everything worsened. Fine scratches began appearing on Emily's bedroom walls. The baby monitor frequently captured eerie whispers around midnight. "Don't let her leave me." One night, Jessica woke to persistent knocking at her bedroom door. She opened it to find no one, but tiny mud-smeared footprints led down the hallway. She rushed to Emily's room. As she shouted her daughter's name, the lights flickered. For a split second, she saw a young girl dart across the room, clutching Mimi in her arms. After that night, Emily stopped speaking. She sat silently by the window, whispering. "Mimi doesn't want to go," she says. "She'll come back." Unable to bear it any longer, Jessica and Mark decided to destroy the doll. They burned it behind the house. The flames roared unnaturally high, releasing piercing, inhuman screeches. They thought it was over. But the next morning, at breakfast, Mimi sat on the table, clean, untouched, and smiling. That same night, the family packed up and left. They never looked back. They moved to another state. As they unpacked, Jessica opened Emily's suitcase and froze. Nestled among the clothes was Mimi, her glassy eyes wide open, her crooked smile unchanged. Attached was a handwritten note. "I told you, I won't leave Emily." And that brings us to the end of our chilling journey through 3 terrifying tales about the eerie experiences of parenthood. These stories really make us reflect on the safety of our children. Sometimes, the scariest things are the ones closest to us, hiding in the everyday moments we think we understand. So, what did you think of these stories? If you've ever experienced something strange or haunting, don't keep it to yourself. Share your story in the comments so others can hear it too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and support me as I continue to uncover and share more real and spine-tingling stories. This is Mr. Twilight, wishing you a peaceful night's sleep if you can.